In the times of the Eastern Roman Empire, also known as the Byzantine Empire, military service was divided between a conscription army and a professional army of volunteers. Those families without a male to join this service either had to find a replacement to serve in the family's stead or pay a tax to subsidize a replacement soldier. In the 10th century, in the village of Vasta, there lived a pious family that did not have any male sons and was too poor to afford a replacement or pay a tax. As a result, the family's father would have had to serve, but one of the daughters, a beautiful young woman named Theodora, offered herself instead out of love for her father. Her parents objected to sending their daughter off to become a soldier, but with time running out and no other options, Theodora assured her family that God would protect her and give her the strength to serve as a man. Despite the fear she would be discovered, her parents gave Theodora their blessing, and she disguised herself as a man, now living as the soldier Theodoros. Until the day came when she was to leave, Theodora did her best to prepare for her new life, dedicating herself to exercise to adapt her body to the rigors of a soldier. Theodora presented herself as her father's son and was stationed at an army camp outside a monastery, which would provide the necessities to the soldiers in return for their protection. Everyone accepted Theodorus into the ranks, but she paid special mind to whenever she dressed, avoiding the eyes of any of the other soldiers. The soldier Theodoros soon gained the admiration of everyone for both his valor and character, and also being devoted to prayer and to the church. He became known for his particular beauty and soft skin, and while he drew the attention of several women, the saint was more concerned that any of the men would find suspicion with him. And yet, it would not be one of the men that would cause trouble for Theodoros, but one of his female admirers. Eventually, Theodoros drew the eye of a certain woman who would frequent the camp to wash the soldiers' uniforms, and contrary to Theodora's own chastity and purity, this woman often made bedfellows with the other soldiers. Despite rebuking her several times, the woman fell in love with this Theodoros. Having become pregnant from one of her sordid affairs, she accused Theodoros of being the father of her child, seeking to force him into marriage with her. Stunned by the accusation, Theodora proclaimed her innocence, and while other soldiers of honor defended the honor of Theodoros, those of ill repute, jealous of the soldier's popularity, spoke on behalf of the accusing woman, and the tide quickly turned against her. The saint was at an impasse. She knew that she could not marry the woman, and while she could easily disprove the accusations levied against her, she worried about the consequences of her long deceit, and especially what would become of her father, who had sent his daughter off as a soldier in his place. She decided that she would maintain her innocence without revealing her true identity. Soldiers in those days were held to a very high standard, and by refusing to re-establish the honor of a maiden, and being found guilty, the soldier Theodoros was sentenced to death. For her final words, she gave one final prayer. "My Christ, forgive my enemies. Let my body become a church, my hair a forest of trees, and my blood a spring to water them." And thus the soldier Theodoros and the Saint Theodora gave up her spirit. Perhaps, as a result of her prayers, that she would be proved innocent before the soldiers, it was decided to remove the uniform of the executed soldier, and to their surprise, under the military raiment of the upstanding soldier, was the soft body of a young woman. Realizing their grave mistake, they buried the saint with honors, and a spring of water gushed from where she was martyred. Veneration of Saint Theodora led to a church being built where she was buried, over the current ruins of the monastery that the soldiers had once protected. Today, the church built in honor of the saint is a very popular pilgrimage site as a show of God's miraculous power. Located outside the village Vasta of Megapolis in the Peloponnese of Greece, 17 oak trees, the same number as the year Saint Theodora lived before her death, sprout from the roof and the walls of the small chapel, without any visible sign of the roots. They neither sprout from the walls or into the chapel. Each tree weighs close to a ton and stand over 20 or 30 meters high, with no damage to either the trees or the church, despite the considerable weight. The church continues to stand miraculously for centuries, despite the worry of collapse from the weight. In fact, any reconstruction attempts of the church have only destroyed parts of the original architecture instead of preserving it. X-rays have failed to reveal any signs of existing roots for the trees, and how the trees received nourishment remained a mystery until 2003, in which a geophysical report was conducted using high-frequency georadar, which showed the roots are hair-thin and thread through the gaps existing inside the stone walls. To quote the report, "It was proved that the roots follow the gaps existing inside the side stone wall, creating repulsion stress between the stones, and thus they reach the ground. This leads to the creation of a net of roots that reinforces the building from a static point of view, opposing the roof load." The spring that gushed forth from the spot where she was martyred has become a river which runs beneath the chapel, thus irrigating the trees. In 2007, as fires ravaged through the Peloponnese, scorching over 300,000 acres of land, Vasta remained untouched, and the church was preserved. Thus, despite the weight of the trees and the centuries of wear, the church still standing serves as a testament to the miraculous power of God and the honor he gives his saints.